today is Saru Gupta, and she is the founder of the Whole Self Method and a practitioner, mentor, and speaker specializing in emotional regulation, nervous system health, and embodied leadership. After building a successful corporate career across the United States and Australia, including roles with KPMG and in banking, Saru experienced firsthand the gap between external success and internal well-being. Her own journey through burnout, grief, divorce, deep personal transformation, and years of study led her to create the Whole Self Method, an approach that helps high-achieving women move beyond coping and into greater clarity, resilience, and self-trust. Born in India and having lived across the US, Australia, and now Dubai, she brings a unique perspective to conversations about leadership, identity, emotional health, and what it truly means to thrive in today's world. So welcome, Saru.
Thank you so much, Julie. I'm really excited to be here and
Yes,
have this chat with you.
yeah, I'm really excited to jump into this. So let's start with your career. So you built a really successful corporate career, as I just said, across the US and Australia, working in KMPG and the banking sector. So from anyone looking externally, that looks like someone who had it totally together. What was actually going on the inside for you?
It's such a great question. It kind of takes me back. When I remember that time, I've worked across different sectors, professional services, tax, KPMG, and then Westpac in different, in commercial banking, private banking. So I kind of have a good understanding of what different countries feel like and also what, from a cultural point as well, because still different countries bring their own element. So on paper, everything looked successful. I had a strong career. I was achieving goals that my younger self would be so proud of. I was like, great. But underneath all of this, there was a quiet sense of like flatness, or disconnection. I was not even depressed. You wouldn't call it depressed. I wasn't falling apart. Life just felt flatter than I had expected it to feel. So, I would get a high, for example, a deadline would hit, I would really do well. And then the next day, the praise. And then this flatness would come in. But then I was younger. So my hormones were still, I'm talking about in like my late 20s, early 30s, when you're still at the peak of your career and, mid 30s and the hormonal stuff had not still hit in.
Yeah.
So it was like, you couldn't blame it on that.
Yeah.
You would just think, this is how it is. And life just felt flatter. Overall, there was a flatness. Now looking back, I can see. But at that time, when I would talk to others, it was the same. You get a high, and then there is this, what we started calling chronic fatigue or other things happening in the body. And I kept thinking maybe the next achievement would feel differently. The next promotion, the next goal, the next relationship, other friendship would fall off, and then the next thing. But each time, I just kept feeling the same. And what I didn't realize then was that I was actually functioning. I was high functioning. Like there's a term which is quite highly used now in psychology or even in the normal world, like a nervous system world. I was a high functioning adult. So I did well on paper, but there was a very much disconnection happening within me.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I've heard a lot of people sort of say that, and I even experienced it when I was in corporate. It was like that. I was not feeling fulfilled. It was like something was missing, and I couldn't pinpoint what it was. And like you said, most people, sort of in that place, will reach for more. Like they want, like the next goal or the next challenge. Maybe more discipline, maybe more motivation. So why does that sort of make that feeling worse? Why does it exacerbate it?
So first of all, actually, it's interesting. And you said like when you were in corporate, you were feeling something similar, like in a different way. And I just want to like add a story before I answer your question because that might give the listeners some more understanding. So then I left my corporate career in between. This was like 12 years ago. After finishing my role in commercial banking at Westpac, Australia, I then left to start a business. And this was before all these health apps had started. Like this was way before what I'm doing now. It
Yeah.
was Live Being Fit. I tied up with the world experts in all different countries and created this app. 1 year into it, I had another crash. And I'm like, I couldn't understand. I'm like, what's happening? I have this top tier, exercise, osteopath, psychologist. Something is still not making sense. So all of a sudden, I couldn't just blame corporate because I
Yeah.
thought it was the corporate. But being here again, I was, and that's when my real journey started of kind of trying to look at what's happening. And now to answer the question, like when you're saying, so why do these things make it worse? So when I look at my body of work now through experiential to trainings, there are three components. One is the whole self-awareness, so awareness of self, what is happening. Second is the body emotion intelligence. So what is the body trying to tell you? The emotion connected. And the third is the nervous system wiring, rewiring, which is, the fight, flight, the palpitations that we all go through. When we are just reaching, so from that simple methodology, which is not simple, these three components, the body is trying to give us a message.
Yeah.
Like that flatness, that anxiety, that whatever we are feeling, there is something. And when we are reaching for the next one, next thing, that listening is still not happening.
Mm.
And then it just keeps piling up. And then we keep creating the next step, which is going to add to it. And sometimes our decisions are going to come from running away from that inner feeling, which we don't have way to explain. And when we talk to people, it's like, oh, but maybe it is like these days we have words like chronic fatigue. I'm not saying chronic fatigue is not real. I'm
Yeah.
not saying burnout is not real,
Yeah.
but it's come to that level because we are missing the cues before that are leading us to that. So in some ways, I hope that answers the question. Like
Yeah.
how, yeah,
It absolutely does. Because I think as you said, high functioning people, men and women, I
yeah,
think we're very, very good at avoiding what we're not comfortable in, perhaps confronting.
yeah,
And through the busyness of life and the push, that push energy, the busyness, we can often think we don't have time to tune into our bodies. I know I've
yeah,
absolutely thought that and believed that. I don't have time to stop here. I've just got to get my next goal. I've got to meet the deadline. I've got to get the pitch. I've got to do whatever it is. I think we're really, really good at the avoidance. So, can you explain like that flatness that you talk about? So, and the listeners might be feeling something, but they can't, name it, or
yeah.
they're not sure what it is. So, what does that flatness actually feel like from the inside,
From so
from your
okay.
perspective?
So again, I'm going to first, before answering that question, because I just want to lead, you said made such an amazing point, and it
Mm.
feels like it's important that will answer the flatness better. When you said like, we, because of busyness of life, and we are very good at avoiding the discomfort. And I also look at the reason we are high, all of the high achievers, the brilliance that makes us do great things in life is also because of the avoidance. So I'm not going to deny that because it means we can go on. But it's coming at the cost of our human system. It's coming at the cost of relationships, the burnout of. So what's happening? I have realized this in my own experience, in my own journey, but also the clients I work with. And I work with really high achieving, sometimes doctors, like who are doing great things in the world, and women who are in the corporate world and entrepreneurs. There's this helplessness. So when we have to meet these feelings, and we don't know how to do them because we've never been taught, we
Yeah.
don't know how to do them. And then, yes, we have this word emotional intelligence, which sounds great on paper. Like, and everyone's doing a degree in emotional intelligence and certificate and like recycling this word everywhere. But
Yeah.
emotions don't show up like that. They come as cluster, and it's like, it just makes no sense. It's not the language of the mind. It's
Yeah.
not something we can be taught. It has to be experienced. It has to be taught like you teach a child. And this, a lot of this information was kind of missing,
Mm.
when our parents were raising us. Like,
Mm.
it was a time of survival, right? They were like, we can still be dreamers. They didn't have the option, I feel like, to be the dreamers like we can be. So we don't have this. We haven't developed this ability. I'm
Mm.
not going to say for everyone, but for most people I worked with, you know. And what that does is, for my journey, I'll speak from personal, it brought helplessness in me. And that
Yeah.
helplessness brought shame. And nobody wants to feel that incapable feeling. And it's happened so subtly that I didn't even realize that was going on. So it meant to avoid that feeling which I can't name, I would reach for the next. Because when I sit with this, I don't know what to do with this. I don't even know what I'm feeling, this anxiety, this help. I can't make sense of it.
Mm.
And that's why I just keep going for the next thing. So I can feel better, because at the end of the day, we are wired to go for pleasure versus pain. That's how the survival, this, and at the same time, our nervous system is also built to survive, right? Which means, how do we survive? So,
Mm.
so I just wanted to give that why we avoid, because we haven't developed, most of us, that capability, and for no fault of our own.
Yeah.
The science had not evolved that much. There was no time, it's, and what we've learned, we are doing in different ways,
Mm.
the best we can cope. And now, to answer your next question, the question which you asked, how do people recognize this flatness? Which can seem like, because I read newsletters, I read like, have in 1 minute make a decision, or 10 minutes make a decision. It just helps. It kind of just adds to that feeling of, why aren't I able to achieve the next thing? Where's my motivation going? Flatness isn't necessarily burnout.
Yeah.
It's not even like anxiety. You just can't access the joy. It's like that simple joy in life, sometimes what children can feel like. And
Mm.
and sometimes, people will say that to me, like, listeners or people, clients who haven't worked, will think, oh, I'm being delusional. How is that possible in this day and age? Or the life we live in? It is actually, things that should excite, they don't feel exciting anymore.
Mm.
Or you feel emotionally numb,
I was going to
muted,
say, is
like
it like
mute,
a
like
numbness?
there's a mutedness.
Mm.
You keep functioning and keep doing the next thing, and there'll be this high when you achieve a goal, and then again there's a disconnection.
Mm.
Life becomes something you manage
Mm.
rather than something you experience. And for
Mm.
someone who has always been like this, because of the upbringing, the lack of information, and not to blame, because the science has evolved, you know, most people won't even recognize it, that they are just being productive,
Mm.
and that there is another way where they can be productive and not have burnout.
Mm.
They can have that and can be connected to themselves.
Mm.
They just keep getting things done, but
Mm.
internally they don't feel alive.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really great description, like you say, like that just not just going through the motions, like managing your life rather than experience it. And the numbness, I think, is something that a lot of people will really resonate with.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. So you mentioned before about nervous system, and I want to talk about that. I think you said it before, but I know you said it when we were actually talking before this. So this is about being a nervous system issue rather than a mindset one, which is a very big distinction, because a lot of us often think we just need to get our mindset in order. We need to change our mindset and things will be better. And I'm one of those people, 100%. So, what do you mean by that, and why does that matter?
So look, mindset matters. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say the mindset doesn't matter. I'm not gonna say it's, like, It's not mind over matter like people say. Mindset matters, right? We can achieve great things if we can work on our mind.
Yeah.
But mindset sits on top of nervous system.
Mm.
The underneath thing is the nervous system. And along with that, the awareness and the emotional body intelligence. And then once you have these things, then you can work on your mind and not manipulate it, but maneuver it the way you want it to. And the reason is, if your body is constantly under stress, in urgency, in hypervigilance, under pressure, positive thinking can only take you so far.
Yeah.
Because, you can work on your mind. You can be like, do affirmations every day, or, make goals. But inside, if you're in fight flight, which is the primal system, which is beyond our logical thinking, which works on our own history, generational history, childhood patterns, life patterns, environment. If we don't have the understanding of what's happening, the mindset cannot take us beyond a certain point. I can say that from my own life. I could have perfect situations, but if my system is wired to feel that the environment is not safe, or if something from the past is still unprocessed in the body, and it keeps showing up and keeps creating stress, and it keeps creating in situations within me, beyond a point, I won't be able to reach my goal. And I'll keep thinking something's wrong with me, that what my coaches or my guides or, what is in the media is telling me, and I'm not able to achieve that. But there is something beyond that's happening. So I kept for years, I kept crying my way into feeling better. I did that too. This was 10 years ago. I did God knows everything. From from chiropractic to this to naturopath to, I've been there and done every kind of diet. I still couldn't. What changed for me was when I started working with my body, my emotions, my nervous system.
Yeah.
So many people don't need another strategy. What they need is to feel internally safe enough to actually experience their life again.
And does that come back to your whole self method?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that the pillars that you were talking about at the start.
Yeah, in some ways it is. Even if I forget that it's my method, right? This is a lot of different topics spoken by a lot of different people. I'm talking about it together in a clubbed it together because of my experience and of understanding and the way I look at it. So these three are separate, different branches of an organism. And with the clients I've worked is, once these systems are installed, once the awareness starts developing, once you develop this whole self-awareness of what's happening within and what's happening around, then you can see and be aware. That's where the whole self comes. Once you start understanding how your body, the cues body is giving, and what emotions are rising in the moment, and how to, I wouldn't even respond to them. That also sounds like you're managing them, but then you're not unconsciously just reacting to them. It could be avoiding them, running away from them, doing, acting out in them. You will have more understanding, and you can work with those emotions, navigate. And then at the same time, the nervous system, which is primal, which is running from eons, that's what kept our ancestors alive, right? If we know that's how it's acting, how I'm going into fight when I'm probably with my partner, or my husband, or when I'm going into flight when a situation I can't handle, or when I'm going to fragmentation or freeze, when I can see and I can start rewiring them, and these three things come together, I start feeling internally safe. It's not a magic pill. It takes a time, because you have to kind of, I'm talking to women, who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, right? It's a certain way of being in life, but that hasn't served. So once you start doing this in a year's time, in 6 months' time, you start seeing a huge shift, because in a month's time you'll understand one component, and then it starts developing. It's a new organism.
Yeah.
interconnected, that starts working together. And then you can have mindset that you can really evaluate. Is this what I want? Is this not? What is driving those things?
Mm. So it's really reconnecting back within, isn't it? And being able to identify what is going on in your body at any given time, like recognizing the emotions, which I feel like we're not great at.
Yeah.
And so you've done more than 2,000 hours of meditation, you've studied trauma, you've done somatic work, attachment theory. So after all of that, like what does that, you've touched on it there, but what does that reconnecting with yourself look and feel like in everyday life? Like that must just
No,
feel like the smile on your face.
no, no. I'm actually laughing because it's like it's such a question, and the answer would be like something huge.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly very ordinary.
Okay.
Ordinary in the sense like you start trusting your decisions. So like
Mm.
today on my I posted it to like my one of my clients who just a small teaser. In the last line she said was she had a divide between herself. She was a high achieving doctor in her 50s, Stanford graduate, but this divide went away. So you start trusting your decisions. You
Mm.
start noticing before the burnout happens. It's like feeling sadness without collapsing, feeling anger without exploding, setting boundaries without guilt. Even though the guilt will come, the emotions will come, but you know what you need to do. You can process, you can resting without feeling lazy. And experiencing joy without immediately rushing for the next achievement. I think that's why I kind of smiled because it's not like this huge high, because we're already getting that huge high from our careers and everything. What we are struggling is when that high is not there, which comes in between, how do we live our lives? So for me, it wasn't surprisingly about becoming someone new. It
Mm.
was just becoming more available.
Mm.
And in the beginning, it was very messy. Why? Because I had never done that. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden, I was someone who was in control all the time, and I knew how to manage control, which is for all high achieving women and men.
Mm.
They know. But this emotional language was new. So it's like messiness. But then you start looking at life in a different way. And you can also have your career. You can be high achieving, but then you know how to get to the reset
Mm.
without burning out, without, having those relationships that are
Mm.
not. So it's actually becoming more available to your own self.
Yeah. And when you were talking, it seems to me like you remove the judgment that you place on like feeling sadness or like you say, resting without feeling lazy.
Lazy.
Yeah. Just that negative judgment that we often place on our feelings because we believe we shouldn't be feeling that way. Like, why are you feeling that way? What's wrong with you?
No, it's like exactly like I think this was years ago. I used to say self criticism
Mm.
is the biggest pandemic.
Mm.
And I was the queen of that,
Mm.
like to be honest, and it was so subtle. It was just a voice constantly, constantly. And it's not like it doesn't comes now, but
Mm.
it's about how to be with it and not because a lot of times we are doing more, we are pushing more to run away from that at the cost of health, burnout. And then what happens is it's kind of like a cycle. We are doing things more to avoid that internally. We don't even know we're doing that to avoid those feelings. But then we end up crashing and then having a break, which actually impairs our careers and our relationships more. So it's not helping
No.
us
It's,
in any way. It's not like the way we are being, it's helping us be more successful, but we think it is because
yeah.
it's costing us a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. And enough people are talking about burnout now. We know about it, but we keep on doing it. So it's not working. Like the message isn't working. So this what you're talking about, like that flatness and understanding that and reconnecting back to, your nervous system and tuning back into that is so powerful. So if one of our listeners is feeling that flatness, which, you know, I'm sure many are, and they can't really identify it, and they might just recognize themselves in this conversation in terms of being that high achiever that just keeps on pushing to the limit, collapsing on weekends, collapsing on holidays, you know, and not getting that enjoyment where you should be on the weekends and on holidays. What is one place that you would recommend that they start tomorrow or today?
I think rather than giving a lot of tasks, because which we high achievers would love, it's like gives a brain. I think one thing would be to start becoming curious rather than critical. Like honestly, it's the simplest things that needs to. Most high achievers would quickly judge themselves and what's wrong with me? Why can't I get motivated? Why am I feeling like this? Maybe I need another retreat. Maybe I need to go on another weekend workshop with women who can inspire me. There can be some yoga and meditation, and then they can be goal setting, you know, and that's going to get me and it's going to make sense. Maybe that's what reconnecting to self looks like, you know. Instead ask, what is this feeling trying to tell me? And if I don't have the answers, how do I get support to actually get the answers for that feeling which I'm avoiding, not trying to reconnect the way I think I've been doing or the way it's been sold to me? What might my body be asking from me? And yeah, if I don't have the verb, again, what do I need to do to understand my body's language and not look for the next syndrome to fix me? Where am I overriding myself? You know, so this is where it's important to start, because other things are just going to give the mind another thing to play on. But it's simple 3 questions. And like I said, in the whole self method, the first thing is awareness. So awareness is where change begins. But embodiment is where change happens. Awareness is where the insight will come. But the embodiment is where we start learning the tools, how to look at our nervous system and how to look at our emotions and body.
I love that. And do you recommend sitting with those questions? Like, because quite often when we ask ourselves new questions, like the answer doesn't just automatically pop into your head. You know, the I don't knows, or, you know, like judgment might come into it. So do you recommend just asking yourself the question over and over until something does come up?
That's actually a great question. Thank you for asking that. I would actually recommend writing these questions on a piece of paper and just put an alarm for 2 minutes or 1 minute. And don't give more than that. 1 minute, and see if something comes. If it doesn't, just drop it.
Yeah.
Ask again the next day.
Yeah.
Don't make it the next goal, trying to, I need to figure it out. Because this is not going to come through figuring it out. You know, you can be highly functional and deeply disconnected. So this is not going to come from the same function that's created the disconnection. It's going to come from a different place. And that's where it's like, and which is hard.
Yeah.
So that's just write the question, give it 2 minutes, alarm 1 minute. Don't try hard. See if it comes. If it doesn't, okay, this is an information from me that I don't have the ability at this moment. Let me try again tomorrow. Do it for 4-5 days. And if it doesn't, then it's a real information. Rather than criticizing self. It's the same way when someone is looking for a job. We go for resume update and brand image update. It's the same thing we need to do to ourselves, our inner world, which is crashing and burning and creating the chaos in our lives. And we think the solution is by not looking at the actual problem, but looking at the next retreat, next weekend workshop, next this. It's actually learning the tools. So the goal is not to become someone new. It is to reconnect with the parts of yourself that got lost in survival. And that's not going to come from the way till now you've been doing life. Like, you know, that's not, we have been doing life. It's going to come from a new way.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Reconnecting to the part that's been lost. Just for the listener, are you able to repeat those 3 questions again?
Just sure. So first question is, what is this feeling trying to tell me?
Mm-hmm.
And if the doubt comes, and if it's like it's coming, oh, it's like no judgment.
Mm.
I don't have the answer to it, but and if I don't know the answer, what do I need to do to get the answer? So answer is not going to come from by forcing.
Yep.
It's a capability I need to develop.
Mm.
What might my body be asking from me?
Mm.
And the third question is, what have been overriding myself for?
Yeah.
Where have I been overriding
Yeah.
myself? What areas of my life where I have been overriding? So these will just give you the cues. This is not going to give you the full solution, but the first step is getting the cues and the answers so we can see. Because we're kind of teaching a child again, like not inner child, but a child again, or like not our child, but us, the
Yeah.
parts which we had forgotten about ourselves.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you so much, Saru. And I will be sharing the links for where people can get in contact with you. And I'm really grateful for you sharing your experience and also your expertise with our listeners today. I think it's been incredibly valuable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julie. I'm so actually grateful that you are bringing this kind of information to your audience, because it's so important, because with all the noise we have and with AI noise, which we can use to figure out our symptoms, it's just creating more chaos. So I'm so grateful for your podcast. It's bringing something unique to the listeners so they can really question.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.